the announcements at the end so nobody forgets. And we didn't have anybody read the Science of Mind because I decided I wanted to read the inside of the program. But then I got 4 of them and didn't bring one up here. Thank you, Reverend Therese. So if you'll open your program, on the very back is some really important stuff. And because we're talking about what this teaching is, I'd like us to read our vision, mission, commitment, intention, and identity on the right-hand side. Our vision: personal empowerment of the individual through personal spiritual growth in a loving community. Our mission: to practice and teach universal principles as expressed in the Science of Mind and to create a safe place for individual expression. Our commitment: to celebrate and make a difference in lives of all whom we touch. Our intention: to expand the awareness of God's presence in our daily lives. Our identity: a center for spiritual living, a place of infinite possibilities. Thank you. Boy, this really makes me sound like I'm breathing heavy. Good morning. I am Reverend Joanne Faith, Peace and Love, Boruck, and I'm so blessed to be here today. I want to open first with, we did a thing on affirmations a while ago, and I asked everybody to write an affirmative prayer treatment for our center. But I got one. This is the seed. Thank you, Juliet. So if you could just close your eyes and make this your truth. If we join in this together, I know that it magnifies and manifests. I know one Creator, divine abundance in all aspects of life, love, joy, peace, and freedom. I am one with this eternal presence. I am. I see the Center for Spiritual Living in Red Deer as a busy location with classes and support groups. I see a strong leader who lives the philosophy of Science of Mind. I know a board who are very interested in running the center. People of all ages are sharing and coming together to support each other. With a deep sense of gratitude, I know it to be the truth of our experience at this center. I declare it to be so, and so it is. Thank you. I'll be reading that every week for a while. So if you get tired of hearing it, please write me one, and then I'll read that one. So, good morning. I used to start with good morning, beautiful, and I like it again. So, good morning, beautiful. Oh, thanks. So, welcome to the greatest day, the day that you're meant to live your life to the fullest. This is the day for you to embrace your greatness. I'm Reverend Joanne. I'm great. I'm good. I'm powerful. And I want to bring that into your awareness as we learn and come into an awareness of the Science of Mind principles. This week specifically, what it does and how to use it. Please join me as I begin with an opening affirmative prayer. I pray in the first person, knowing that there is only one Creator, one mind, and we are all one. We are a creative force. We are one power, one God, operating everywhere present in my life. I am infused and blessed with the power and wisdom of the intellect of the universe, which is God. All that I declare with clear intention for the greatest good of all concerned is already manifested. And as I recognize it, it takes form in my life. With great thanksgiving for the opportunity to share this truth, to learn and grow every day from this truth. I let my words go into the infinite wisdom where it is already perfect, already whole and complete. And together we say, and so it is. In this moment of peace and oneness, let us bring into our hearts all those who we love, who we care about, who we wish to send our prayers to, as we collectively join in this moment. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Good morning again. I have to bring myself back into the room after I send my prayers and thoughts to people who don't know how much they're loved. I was thinking on the way here, wow, the world needs us. If I had 10 of me, I couldn't begin to serve all the people that I want to. So I feel really blessed for the ones I do serve, and know that I hold you all in my heart when I do my morning prayers. So this is an amazing time on this earth, and I'm sure you know it. This is a time of evolution. And you're needed now. And today we're going to expand on the final two pillars of the teaching of Ernest Holmes, which are the way it works and how to use it. The first two pillars was the thing itself, was God, love, intelligence. And the way it works, it responds to us according to our belief. And how much good can we embody? All that we can accept and conceive of. So I want to go back and backtrack a little, because not everybody knows about this teaching of Ernest Holmes. Reverend Russell, can you grab me a book, a Science of Mind book? I brought one, but I forgot to bring it up. No, the big fat one. Thank you, Donna, for bringing me water. She must have known. So Russell's gone to get me our teaching book. It's a pretty big book, and it'll change your life. If you don't already have it, if you have it at home, maybe start reading it again. So the first 4 chapters in here are called The Thing Itself, which is God. The way it works for us by working through us. What it does, it responds to our thoughts, to our thinking, and how to use it is with faith. So he calls those the 4 pillars of his book. And he goes on to explain it in so many different ways. Also, he had these other 4 pillars he talked about. He says, there's 4 things you need for a good, healthy, loving life. And you'll see it in so many teachings, in awareness teachings, in meditation, in yoga. And they are these 4 things: love, health, creativity, and abundance. And none of those have to do with your physical being. Love is self-love. It's not necessarily having the love of your life in your life. Health, it's not about being able to run 100 miles. It's about how you are in wellness. Creativity, again, it's not about you can sew a coat or you can cook a pie. It's about, do you allow yourself to create the life you want? And the last one's abundance. And it has nothing to do with money. It's about how much good do you have in your life. Because the more good you have in your life, the more you're going to attract money. That is the law. So the thing itself, God, the way it works, through us, as us, what it does, responds to our thoughts, and how to use it with faith. And you don't have to remember everything I said or what I quote, because guess what? It's already inside of you. You already know about the thing itself, what it does, what it is, and how to use it. I'm going to talk to you about what it does. What it does, practicing those 4 pillars and this thing itself, this universal intelligence, well, it does it all. It does whatever you want. Imagine that. If you knew that there was a power out there greater than you are, and it does whatever you want, well, you'd be really more careful when, a lot more specific when you talk about what you want. And the other thing it does, it makes you believe. Makes you believe in miracles. And that's just a few of my experiences on what it does. Ernest Holmes puts it so eloquently in his book, and I'll relay some of his messages as we go. So there was a time in my life when I didn't know how powerful I was or how beautiful I was. I started this life early in a big family, growing up with not a lot of abundance on social subsistence most of the time. And on my 16th birthday, when everybody was saying sweet 16 and never been kissed, I couldn't tell anybody I was pregnant. And so my life unfolded like that for a while. And then I met some people who introduced me to what we call energy work. But really, it was the power of my mind to change my experience according to my belief. And so I delved into a whole bunch of things. The most critical of is Reiki. And I carried that with me for a long time. And, there was a time when you couldn't even tell anybody. I worked at the city of Lacombe, and they said, if you tell one person you do Reiki, you're out the door. Thank God that was 25 years ago. And so secretly we were doing Reiki. Carmen was secretly doing Reiki. And Juliet says to me, you got to come to the Center for Spiritual Living. I was like, no fat chance. I'm not going to any place that's full of judgment. And I got Sundays. I got things to do. So every once in a while I go to meditation with Juliet. And she kept saying, you should come to the Center for Spiritual Living. So one day I came here. And I just couldn't believe it. There was all these like-minded people. Not exactly like me, but like-minded in knowing that there's something greater out there than who our teachers said, who our parents said, who our siblings said. And that the power that I was using to give Reiki was really this unexpressed love, that I had so much love in my life. I was smothering my kids. I was smothering my siblings. And then I found Reiki, and I could just give love to anybody I wanted. And that's how it started for me. It started in my body. But that wasn't enough for me. There was something inside of me that thought, I was raised in an Anglican church, and I had this thing about, is this God ordained? Even though the first word in Reiki is God is here, right now. And so when I came here, I thought, this is the bridge. This is the bridge that takes me from religion to spirituality. And boy, was I ever friggin' excited. And I learned a whole bunch of new words. I learned some words like consciousness, awareness, mindfulness, all those things. And intelligence. Well, that was one thing I never heard much when I became a teenage mom. The last thing people thought of you was intelligent. And I can tell you, my son is 50 years old, and he's the greatest joy of my life. Oh, he might be 51 now. So there is an intelligence already working through us that we have no idea. So for me, what it does is it opened me to a greater experience of who I am, of the truth, and the truth of this buzzword we hear everywhere called the law of attraction. It's up to each of us. It's up to you, and it's up to me to stand up now, that we know there's a power for good in the universe. Stand up and be an example. I want to stand up and be an example of peace. I want to be an example of love. I want to be an example of light. And that's why I call myself Reverend Joanne, Faith, Peace, and Love. That's what I stand for. And the law of attraction really is the law of mind. I talked the last 2 weeks about, there's a law of electricity. You plug in something, you can't see it, but, it boils the kettle, turns on the speakers. There's a law of gravity, you can't see it, but you walk on the earth, so you know it. But we know there's a law of nature, because things grow and die and go dormant, and then they come back and they bloom. I think that's how we're fashioned after, the law of nature. But we're intelligent human beings. Plants don't have an intelligence. We have something Ernest Holmes called the greatest gift is the gift that we can think for ourselves. So we're fashioned after the law of nature. We have cycles, we have seasons. Only we know when we need water, when we need fertilizer, when we need to plant a new seed, because those ones are growing weeds. So I think about that when something's not going on in my life. I think, wow, if that was a flower in my garden, what would I do? I would clear out all the brush around it that was stopping me from growing and blossoming into who I truly am. And right now I want to make a tidal wave of this truth, of this knowingness. When I see how much angst there is in the world, I think, if everybody knew this truth, that at some cellular level we're all one. And if you saw the Hubble telescope picture this week, it was a web of light. It was like a spider web, and it really brought that to me. Did you see that, Carmen, Deb? Oh, it's so beautiful. I really believe that we are a web. We're a web of light. We're a web of energy. And you don't have to make a tidal wave. I'm pretty blessed to be able to have this soapbox that I can get up and make a tidal wave. You can be a ripple. I can guarantee you, by the time that ripple smooths out, it has reached the shore. And imagine how many people will be touched by your ripple. As I researched what I was talking about and how I wanted to stand for peace and love, and I don't want to be radical, I was reading about the great marches in the Bible, the peace marches in the 70s, the women's marches in the 20s, and I decided to march for an intelligent universe. So I'm going to march for what it does. I'm going to march for how to use it. I'm going to be a centurion. And that's where I found some scripture about that. Do you know a centurion was an officer in the Bible in Rome? And a centurion, contrary to belief, was not a warrior or a fighter. They were chosen. Centurions were chosen by merit. And they were so remarkable. They were chosen not so much for their daring or their courage, but for their deliberate consistency and strength of mind. Wow, that's law of mind in action if I ever heard it. In Matthew chapter 8, verse 5 to 13, they talk about there was one centurion who went to Jesus, and he asked Jesus to heal his servant who was paralyzed. And Jesus says, well, I can't go there, but if you have enough belief, I can heal through you. I can heal your servant. And that man's faith was so strong that he healed that servant from a great distance. In Matthew chapter 8, it states, and Jesus said unto that centurion, go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And the servant was healed in that same hour. So I think there's one phrase that can encompass what it does. It is done unto you as you believe. So what it does is it is done unto you. And how to use it is as you believe. That's from Matthew chapter 9, verse 29. And I like to break that down. I like to just think that whole phrase has a greater message. So if I break it down to it is done. It is done. That's and so it is. That's amen. That's namaste. If that's all you say, it is done. That's a complete sentence. But what about it is done unto you? Oh, that's even greater. It is done not just out there in the universe. It is done unto me. It's done unto you. And then a little bit deeper where it says, it is done unto you as you. That's the way it works. It's done unto you as you. You can't have anything in your life unless you allow it to flow through you. Nobody can change you. Nobody could fix you. It is done unto you as you. Then that full statement, it is done unto you as you believe. It is done unto you as you believe. We're also reminded in the Science of Mind book that life has two things, and I talked about that. And in Marianne Williamson, she talks about there's two things, fear and love. Our philosophy is there is no fear. There's only love and the absence of it. There's only abundance and the absence of it. There's only harmony and the absence of it. So if you're focusing on something that's not love, harmony, then you're focusing on the absence. Focus on the presence. So Ernest Holmes says there's only love. And there's only law. The law of mind, the law of nature. And he goes on to say, love points the way. But law makes the way possible. So love is the thing itself, and law is what it does. It makes the way possible. We call it vibration, the law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of mind. That's how it's possible. Ernest Holmes tells us in his book called Creative Mind, wake up. Your word is powerful. Your consciousness is one with omnipotence. Your thought is infinite. Your destiny is eternal. And your home is here in heaven. Realize this truth. I am living in a perfect universe. It was always perfect and always will be perfect. That's exactly what Tressa's meditation was about today. So what it does unto us as us. It reflects back to us what we're thinking. So if you want to know what tomorrow's going to bring, ask yourself what you're thinking today, because the universal intelligence is a responder. It's not a corresponder. It's not going to argue with you. And I liken it to a genie in a bottle. You know, you put this word in a bottle, you put the cork on, throw it in the ocean. And whoever picks that up, if you start telling yourself, I'm not worthy, I'm broke, I'm fat, I'm old, you're putting that in a bottle and throwing it in an ocean. And it's going to float around there forever. And when somebody opens it, it's the genie in a bottle. It says, yes, master, if you say so, master. And it's going to deliver back to you whatever you put in that bottle. But there's something else it does. And I look out and I see Beth, and I remember when we were first learning Science of Mind, and it was tough. And she says to me, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And I think about that a lot of times, how I thought simple and easy were congruent, but they're not. Life is simple, and it's the nature of the universe to give us all that we're able to take. So as much as we can handle. For example, you do a treatment for abundance and prosperity. And if you're doing treatment for abundance and prosperity all the time, what do you do when you get it? Do you put it in your wallet just tenderly like a beautiful baby and treat it so gently and iron it out and put all the heads the same way and just really enjoy what you're putting in your wallet? Or are you a little like me and you just shove it in the zipper part and I'm working on that. I don't have an abundant consciousness. I etch-a-sketch that. I didn't have an abundance consciousness, but now I really make a point of when I spend money, really blessing it so that whoever touches it is blessed. When I get paid, when I put money in my wallet, I bought myself a wallet with little hearts on it, and I put the money in the wallet. And isn't that important, Cass? Cass put some money in her pouch of her hoodie, and what happened to that money? Fell on the floor. And not where she could find it either. So that's a message for all of us. Respect. Respect whatever you have in your life. And for a lot of people right now, it's abundance. So respect what you have, and you'll get more of it. Because the universe only responds, doesn't correspond. So believe to receive. I'm going through here and I'm thinking, I already said all that. So there's a law, the law of faith and the law of belief, and it's just as definite as any other law in nature. It uses the creative principle of life in such a way that it becomes submerged in you. If you embrace, that's the peace symbol. That's our teaching symbol. We're open at the top. Everything that happens to us happens through us. So if we're open at the top, all of the goodness of the universal energy, all the goodness of God flows into us and through us. But what if we took it all in and we never let it out? Well, it would be like somebody built up a beaver dam. You got to let it out in order for it to keep flowing. So what it does, it acts on our thoughts, it pours substance into us, and we create the mold with it. It is done unto you as you believe. And I spent a lot of time on that because I really think that's so important. The first one, the thing itself, God, universal intelligence, love, that's a kind of a given. And the last one, how to use it, is through faith and belief. That's good. But how to use it and what it does, those are the meat and potatoes of, Ernest Holmes calls it his lessons and his lessons. He says we indulge too much in theory and too little in practice. The science of mind flows through us, out into everything. It's right where you are at this moment in time. By thinking correctly, we can use it to do things for us. But again, it has to work through us in order to work for us. Whatever you say, master your mind. The original spirit is harmony. And how to use it is to listen to yourself. Listen to your soul. What is your soul telling you? People talk about being spiritually fit. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are. So what it does, it creates who you are. And it's what you do and who you are in your day-to-day life. It's not about how many certificates you have on the wall. It's about how much wisdom you share. I know somebody here who has a lot of certificates on her wall. That's knowledge. But when it flows through her, out into the world, and takes that off the wall and puts it into her consciousness, that's wisdom. So you're in the presence of a lot of really wise people in this room today who've taken that certificate off the wall, put it into their hearts, and let it flow through them. So you can use the energy. It's words. And it's the space between the words. Maybe that's what it does. It works on the space between the words. Who are you between the words you're speaking when you're just being, when you're just there? When you're saying, this is who I am, and this is what I think, and it's not in words, it's in actions. So your thoughts create your words, but only you can hear and see every word you're saying. So what are you saying to yourself? By naming something, you bring it into being. When you name something, you bring it firmly into the level of your reality. And I talk a lot about spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer because I think that's the greatest gift we have. And I'll remind you, there's 5 steps. The first one is recognizing there is a power greater than you are. You can call it God. You can call it love. And the second one is connecting to it. And because I'm connected to it, I can use it too. All that the universe is, so am I. And once you're plugged into that, you can state anything you want. State it in the positive and in the present, because everything you need is already inside. And then the fourth one is to say thank you. Thank you for this life. Thank you for my manifestation. And the last one's faith. I let it go. I let it go. I know it's so. So prayer It's not begging, it's not pleading, it's a process of aligning yourself with good. I talk about prayer sometimes. People shouldn't pray at 911. Help! It's too late. If you want answers, you pray at 411. Information. Hello, I'm phoning for information. That is a good prayer. In Ernest Holmes, in page 54, it says, "What is true is that wrong conditions exist. But you know what? They could only exist if somebody was there to experience it. It's like if a tree falls in the forest. So, same with poverty. It's only a truth if somebody connects to it. If somebody recognizes it and claims it as their own, then it becomes a real thing. But if you're not experiencing it in your consciousness, then it's not true. So change your consciousness from any false condition into what is your truth." And I want to read one of the first things I read in the Ernest Holmes' most wonderful teaching. He's got over 118 books, by the way, most of them written over 100 years ago, still so relevant today. On page 60, when I read this is not the same one. This is it. He says in here, and this is the first day I came to class, "A new light is coming into the world. We're on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin. The invisible passes into visibility through our faith in it. A new science, a new religion, and a new philosophy are rapidly being developed. This is in line with the evolution of the great presence, and nothing can hinder its progress. It's useless as well as foolish to make any attempts to cover this principle or to hold it as a vested right of any religion. The truth will out. The Spirit will make itself known. Happy are we if we see these things which from the foundation of the human race have been longed for by all aspiring souls." I think the first thing that really got me was, a new light is coming into the world. We're on a borderland of a new experience. If you looked at anything that talked about 2024, didn't it say that very same thing? And let me see when this book was written. Do you know when this book was written, Tress, the first time? Okay, I'm going to have a look. 1935, but that was this edition. So maybe 1926, 98 years ago. Do you think if he would have thought that 100 years we'd still be seeing that? We're on the border of a new experience, and the veil between religion and spirituality is very thin. Well, that's what I mean when it's time to stand up. It's time to make a ripple. It's time to make a splash. It's time to tell everybody, I know that there's a way that you can live the life that you want. And I'm not saying we're all going to live in mansions. All I'm saying is we can live a life of peace and love. That doesn't cost anything. But it does cost you getting out of your bloated nothingness, he calls it, and taking responsibility. You know, I'm online. A lot of people come here and they listen and they think, holy cow, that sounds like a lot of work. I'm responsible for my life? Oh, I don't know if I can do it. But I'm telling you, you can do it. I did it. I started from nothing. Everybody here has a story that would just astound you at where you came from and what you've been through. And I've heard a lot of them, but I can't tell you. There's one verse in Psalms, verse 1, chapter 18. It says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And it goes on to say, "In all things be grateful for your lessons, for your gifts. What we show expands." A new light is coming into the world. And this is what I know for sure. As you live your life from this day forward, do it with an open heart, with love, the thing itself. Do it with an open mind, the way it works. Do it with an open thought, what it does. And do it with faith, how to use it. There are many ways of stating that law, the law of mind. We hear lots of people talking about they're taking a class in mindfulness and awareness and meditation. It all follows this teaching. There's some great people that have been through this teaching. Louise Hay was a minister. Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson. And they all took a page from this book, who took a page. If you read Ernest Holmes and all the people he studied, he quotes a lot of Plato in here. He quotes some Bible. So I'm just telling you, all the wisdom of the universe is just being regurgitated, brought up over and over. And when are you going to listen? When am I going to listen? If we believe and we follow this teaching, the thing itself, the way it works, what it does and how to use it, we can change our lives and we can change the world. And I want to thank you for listening, because every time I talk, I learn. I am Reverend Joanne Faith, Peace and Love Boruck. And this has been Ernest Holmes' Lessons in a Philosophy of Faith and a Way of Life. Thank you.